This is Tom Reuteler,
And this is Eli Squier.
We're going to be telling you about cell structure. Eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are cells that contain membrane-bound organelles, which are organelles found within the cell membrane that perform functions for the cell, and some have their own DNA. The DNA is held by X-shaped chromosomes, and humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. The DNA is made up of a short arm, long arm, and a centromere. Eukaryotes can be either multicellular or unicellular, and eukaryotes can have a glycogen cell wall, but only in plant cells.
Prokaryotes do not have membrane-bound organelles, therefore they are less complicated and the individual prokaryotes do less. DNA is held in plasmids, which are circular strands of DNA that can contain benefits such as antibiotic resistance. They are always unicellular and contain a peptide-glycan cell wall.
Eukaryotes have both ribosomes and lysosomes. Ribosomes assemble proteins, whereas lysosomes digest food and carry out unneeded particles. Eukaryotes are larger in size and way more complex as compared to prokaryotes. And the kingdoms that are eukaryotic are Animalia, Fungi, Plantae, and Protista. Animalia are multicellular heterotrophs that don't contain a cell wall. Plantae are multicellular autotrophs that do have a cell wall. Fungi are both multicellular and unicellular that break down the other dead organisms and do have a cell wall. Protista are a catch-all group that are mostly unicellular, both hetero and autotrophs, and sometimes have a cell wall.
Ribosomes and lysosomes are also in prokaryotes because they are not membrane-bound. Ribosomes are free-floating proteins and RNA, while lysosomes are just bubbles of particles. They are smaller in size and less complex than eukaryotes due to their lack of protein or membrane-bound organelles. These include archaebacteria and eubacteria. Archaebacteria live in extreme environments and do not affect humans, but eubacteria can help or hurt humans. This includes Methanobrevibacter smithii. Organelles. This includes the nucleus that controls the cell's activity through the DNA it contains. The nucleolus is located inside of the nucleus that produces ribosomes. Ribosomes are free-floating around the cell membrane and are also connected to the ER. They assemble proteins. The mitochondria supplies energy to the cell. The plasma membrane surrounds the cell and controls what comes through the cell through a bilayer of lipids. The endoplasmic reticulum is connected to the nucleus and transports proteins.
Other organelles include the vacuole, which stores food and water, Golgi apparatus, which packages proteins, the cytoplasm, which is the gel that gives the cell shape, and the chloroplast, which captures sunlight and converts it into glucose, but only in plant cells, and the cell wall, which provides structure, but again also for plant cells. Only for plant cells.
Movement. This includes pseudopodia, cilia, and flagella. Pseudopodia are extensions of the cell membrane that contain cytoplasm. They are able to extend and contract their arms by disassembling protein filaments into microfilaments. The filaments near the cell's end interact with ATP and contract to become normal. This continues throughout the cell until the moving side is extended away and the opposite side contracts towards the moving side. Cilia are hair-like projections on the outside of the cell. They vibrate back and forth to move the cell like a large rowboat. They are able to take in food for the cell as well. They are moved by ATP, causing contractions in the doublet microtubules. Flagella are much like cilia. They use few, long projections that make a whipping motion like a tadpole. They are also moved by doublet microtubules.
Feeding types. The first feeding type is an autotroph, where organisms use simple inorganic substances to make their own complex organic food, such as carbohydrates, which are the most important source of energy for organisms, lipids, which include fats, waxes, and vitamin A, D, E, and K, and proteins, which are molecules that contain long chains of amino acids. Chemotrophs are organisms that use chemicals to make their own food. in contrast to autotrophs, which utilize solar energy. Chemotrophs obtain energy by the oxidation of electron donors in their environment of organic or inorganic molecules. An example of a chemotroph is a Theomicrospira crunogena. And the final type of feeding types is a heterotroph, which is an animal that lives off of and eats other organisms, such as autotrophs and chemotrophs. An example of a heterotroph is an amoeba.
This is Eli Squier,
And this is Tom Reuteler.
and I hope you learned very well about cell structure and eukaryotes and prokaryotes. And we'll see you later.